Well now, what's this imposing presence gracing my doorway? A new adventurer? You look like you've been on the road, and for a while. Let me guess. Bandits on your arse? Or worse, something with too many eyes stalking you from the trees. Don't worry, you're safe here. This is Creature Tavern, and we cater to adventurers like yourself. Fighters, scholars, monster hunters, and the occasional bard who thinks a song can pay for a meal. Now I know you're aware the world is crawling with creatures, some helpful, some horrifying, but knowing of them and understanding them, that's different. And that, adventurer, is where I come in. I've spent years gathering stories, accounts and first-hand encounters with the beasts that roam our lands, so while you rest your feet and enjoy a drink, let me share a few things that might just keep you alive on your journey. This week's creatures have been described as an amateur leatherworker you pay with cats, the hungriest skeleton, and a vampire you wouldn't want to be paired with in a three-legged race. So come, pull up a stool at Creature Tavern! We'll begin this week's tales with the one of Black Annis, also known as Black Agnes, Black Anne, or my personal favourite, Cat Anne. Some say she's an ancient goddess who the people happily made human sacrifices to. Other folk suggest that Black Annis of Leicestershire was a real person named Agnes Scott, a nun who cared for a local leper colony who lived a life of prayer in a cave in the Dane Hills. All I can say for sure, young adventurer, is that this creature is one no sane person would intentionally seek out. She's described as a grotesque nightmare, a creature whose very presence seems to drench the air around her with malice. Impossibly tall, with skin a mottled, sickly shade of blue, stretched tight over her gnarled skeletal frame. Her face, twisted and cavernous, is an expression of primeval hunger. Flesh pulled taut over sunken bone, some folks say her eyes burn with a feral yellow glow, while others swear they are pits of purest night, a calling void that swallows all sense of hope. And her lips, drawn back to reveal a mouth brimming with jagged, iron-like teeth that never seem to stop gnashing. And it only gets more horrifying the more you see. Her hands are monstrous, long and clawed, tipped with metal talons capable of rending flesh from bone with ease. And here's the best bit. Black Annis is a fashion-forward creature. She's never seen without her cloak, crafted from tattered, rotting flesh, the remnants of her victims draped over her hunched shoulders as a perverse trophy. If you're unlucky enough to get this close to her, you'll find her breath is foul, carrying the stench of decayed bodies and old blood. And when she opens her mouth to howl, it's as if the very air itself becomes poisoned, thick with the stench of death. Or if you believe the Cat Anne legends, she's a giant, monstrous cat. And personally, adventurer, that's the one I choose to believe. As I mentioned earlier, Black Annis lives in the Dane Hills of Leicestershire, England, specifically in a cave carved by her own iron talons, deep into the sandstone, named Black Annis's Bower. If you wanted to test your might, young adventurer, simply look for the tall, gnarled oak tree that sits at the mouth of her cave. Its branches are ancient and skeletal. They almost appear to beckon you closer. Oh, and I almost forgot. That tree, that's where Black Annis hangs her neatly flayed skins. So if you're in the market for some new leathers, you'll always find a couple hanging there. Anyways, back to the bower. The air there is thick with the smell of rot and copper, and venturing further in will only intensify the horror, as those few mad individuals who've dared venture forth say its walls are scarred with claw marks, likely from Black Annis's own talons when she carved this demented home. And the floor, they say it's drenched in the blood of livestock and children. How anyone's able to tell the difference, I couldn't say, but that is how the story goes. And there are others that say she lived in the cellars beneath Leicestershire Castle, with an underground passage linking the cellars to those Dane Hills, along which she likes to run. I'd maybe start there if I were you, adventurer. Avoid that skin drying rack. So if this tale's got you sitting on edge, dear adventurer, don't fret. It's said that Black Annis only ventures out on winter's nights, so you're safe for now. But once winter comes, beware. Black Annis is no simple beast. She's a creature of intelligence and cunning. She's no one-trick pony, but a far sinister two-trick pony. Sometimes Black Annis would hang in the branches of that old oak tree, just outside her cave, waiting to prey on the curious or lost. Other times it's said she ventures further out, to the local village for a spot of lunch. And by lunch, I of course mean she likes to reach her stretched, bony arms into villagers' windows and drag children out and off to our cave. A lot of folks around here say she has a particular taste for naughty children and lambs, although no one can say whether the lambs also have to be naughty. Either way, you'll know when Black Annis is hungry by the disturbing sound of her grinding teeth. Some say this is Black Annis giving warning of her imminent arrival. Or you might hear her wailing howl. It's said to stretch over the land for 5 miles. So remember these sounds, adventurer. Recognising one could mean the difference between you having lunch and becoming it. So to survive an encounter with Black Annis, you'll need some advice. And as luck would have it, your friendly neighbourhood tavern keeper has just that. If you must venture out in search of her, then go out in the day and make sure it's not winter. At least that way you know she won't be hanging out in her tree, and you can always escape into the light should she catch you in her cave. It also doesn't hurt to bring some herbs. Rosemary, sage and yarrow are commonly used to ward away malevolent spirits, and although there's little evidence to say Black Annis is 100% a spirit, some folk around here think she is, as long as you're willing to trust a few regulars. Now this one might surprise you, but if you do venture down into Black Annis's bower, and the herbs look more like they'll be seasoning than warding, then you may find this next tip saves your hide from becoming a new skirt. Legends claim that Black Annis has a particular fondness for felines, and that presenting her with one might distract her or even calm her, granting you and your party a narrow window to escape. You could say she takes any catrancy. However, not everyone believes this feline bargaining chip will work, and then you've got to think about the numbers. Do you bring just the one cat? What if you name it? Can you really sacrifice that cat after bonding with her on your quests? You've a colder heart than I if you can, adventurer. Now before we get stuck into our next creature, go buy us a couple of drinks. This tavern don't run on goodwill after all. Hey everyone, this is your dashing tavern keeper. Thanks for listening to episode 1 of Creature Tavern. I really hope you're enjoying the episode. If you post about the show using the hashtag Creature Tavern on X or Blue Sky, there's a chance you'll be immortalised as a character on the show. Maybe you'll be a world famous bard who helps unlock the mysteries of one of next week's creatures, or maybe you'll end up as a drunk who stumbles into a monster's nest. Either way, your name will go down in the annals of audio history. And while I'm asking for favours, it would really help if you could tell a friend, family member, or even a foe about the show. Keeping a tavern going with all these creatures around ain't cheap, and we've got zero budget for advertising, so word of mouth is all we have to go on. That's it for this break, folks. Thanks for listening. Now let's get back to the tavern. Cheers, adventurer! That'll do the trick nicely as we get into our next creature. The Gashadokuro, or Hungry Skeleton, is a yokai from Japanese folklore, and it too goes by a few other names. Some call it the Starving Skeleton, others the Rattling Bones, and it's a monstrous titan, a giant skeleton made from thousands of bones. Folks around here say it's born from the spirits of those who died in famine or war, left unburied and forgotten. Their anger and hunger fuse together, and what you get is a towering abomination, taller than the tallest tree. Many tales of the Gashadokuro say the eyes glow with a supernatural yellow. But that fella over there, for some reason, he thinks it's green. And most of my patrons, they claim they're hollow, empty with a darkness that'll freeze your blood, and the sound it makes. One of my regulars described it as a rattling of dry bones or the grinding of teeth, sending out a foreboding echo of the horrors about to loom over the land. And that's if you're lucky enough to hear it at all. The legends say a great amount of suffering is required to manifest these mammoth horrors. War, plagues, or famines, they'll do quite nicely. as they provide a very high number of bodies. And if these bodies don't receive the proper burial rites, their souls are stuck, unable to move on, eternally chained to this world and filled with that anger or pain that ferments, continuing to fester long after the flesh has rotted from bone, eventually twisting into a supernatural bitterness against the living, till enough bones have piled up and a Gashadokuro is born. And I'm not talking about the bones in your grandma's backyard, I'm talking thousands, hundreds of thousands of bones here, adventurer. This is a towering terror. This won't surprise you, but the giant monster skeleton looks like a giant monster skeleton. Said to be 15 times larger than an ordinary skeleton like you or I have. From the sketches I've seen, it seems as though these bleached bones of the dead have, through some otherworldly manipulation, been reconstructed to form a new solid structure, perfectly mimicking a human skeleton. I have heard from other folks that say it's actually a paranormal force that gathers the bones together, pinning them in place to force the giant's form. All I can say is that no person alive has ever gotten close to confirm either of these theories. Maybe that lucky someone will be you, my brave adventurer. So if you're ever out looking for one of these horrors, know they don't stick to one place. They like to roam. Countryside, woodlands, deserts, anywhere really. They're giants. There's very little that can prevent a Gashadokuro from taking a relaxing stroll. They're especially fond of areas where the dead have been left to rot. Old battlefields, abandoned villages, places where the earth itself feels cursed. But don't think you're safe in the towns. I've heard many stories of them wandering into the human settlements, drawn by the scent of the living, or the town was just unfortunately in the path of this titan. Now listen close, adventurer, because this is where it gets grim. The Gashadokuro is strong, very strong. Strong enough, in fact, to crush a tavern with a single skeleton hand. And they move silently, despite their size, so you won't know it's there until it's too late. But if you've got the gods on your side, then you might hear that clattering of bone I mentioned earlier, or one other sound. Have you ever heard a ringing in your ear? Bet you have. Well, that could have been the Gashadokuro, just before it's about to attack. So if you think you're brave enough to face this spooky, scary skeleton, then do not, under any circumstance, look into its eyes. You see that man over there? He claims to have witnessed a Gashadokuro attack in the woods, about 15 miles from here. Claims he saw people stood directly in front of the giant, heads craned high, and bodies frozen in place. Even as the people around them were being crushed and their heads were bitten off, these souls were paralysed, like a rabbit staring down a wolf. And I don't think you can fight it. Swords, axes, arrows, I don't know what that is there you've got, but that's not going to work either. So how do you kill what's already dead? We'll get to that. For now, let's carry on with what this massive bag of bones can do. In addition to its overwhelming size and physical strength, the Gashadokuro is essentially immortal. This creature, although it clearly enjoys the taste and mouthfeel of human flesh, it doesn't actually need to eat in order to survive. Turns out the secret to a long life is to run on a cocktail of pure malice and hatred. Although it is said that once this raw energy is exhausted, the Gashadokuro will collapse, and the thousands and thousands of bones that once made this titan will come crumbling back to earth. The only issue with this little tip is that I couldn't find any concrete timeline for how long this energy will last. Unfortunately, the Gashadokuro doesn't come with a fuel gauge, so make sure you're wearing comfortable shoes, adventurer, because if one spies you during its lunch break, you're going to be running, maybe for an afternoon, or maybe a few thousand years. So if you're what some would say foolish, but I'll say plucky enough, to go looking for some Gashadokuro trouble, here's what you need to know in order to survive. First off, if you hear that rattling sound, run. If you hear a chattering sound, run. If you hear a high-pitched ringing, run. Do not try to fight it. You'll end up losing your head and looking like a squished juice box. And don't forget to accessorize. Carrying a charm or two, specifically a Shinto charm, will help in your encounter, as these are said to help ward off the creature. Well, let's say you ignore everything I've just told you, or you think some measly skeleton is nothing for the great adventurer that you are. In that case, your best bet is to hope you're not alone. That way you can escape while your friends freeze in terror and have their heads bitten off. I do also have one more theory that might help. Since it's the energy of anger that fuels a Gashadokuro, if you're able to resolve whatever inner pain has caused this emotion, you may have just found a way to become the hero of the land. I would like to add a disclaimer here though. This has not been tested. So please do not mention me or my tavern should you attempt this and fail. On the other hand, if you're successful, please mention the wonderful little tavern and its handsome tavernkeeper that provided you with this helpful little tidbit. Speaking of helping, I'm going to help myself to a little creature sausage. You want one? 2 copper. I'll be right back, adventurer. Hello again, dear listener. Thanks for sticking around. If you're interested in helping out a humble tavern keeper, it just so happens that subscribing wards off any and all evil forces seeking to harm this cozy establishment. So if you're enjoying your stay, I'd truly appreciate the support. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or pretty much anywhere audio delights are found. Just search for Creature Tavern. And while we're here, I have a quest for you, should you dare to accept. It is foretold that those who leave a review shall gain favour with the great dragons. So why not give it a go and see what fate has in store for you? With that, we've reached the end of this break. I promise no more interruptions today, so sit back, relax, and enjoy our next creature. Thanks again for listening. How's the food, adventurer? Better than you thought, right? Are you ready for our third and final creature sighting? Ever heard of the Empusa? Do you want to? In that case, you stay sat there and listen well, for this is no mere fireside tale to amuse children. The Empusa is a creature of deception, a lustful terror that slinks through the annals of Greek folklore. Some call her a vampire, or a demon, a witch, a demigoddess, a succubus, a phantom, a spirit, or a demonic servant of the goddess of witchcraft. In every iteration, folks always agree that she was sent to our world to torment mortals and revel in our suffering. I can best sum her up as death wrapped in a veil of beauty. The Empusa is known to take the form of a breathtaking woman, her beauty so striking that it seems almost otherworldly. Men have abandoned their homes, their families, and even their very senses to follow her into the darkness, believing they would have found a few minutes of paradise. But beneath this illusion lies her true form. When she reveals this truth, her hair, once fine as flowing red silk, is replaced by roaring flames. From her back jut 2 large fleshy bat wings, but most striking and contested of all are her legs. First there's the number. Half the people swear she's got 2. The other half put their coin down on 1, giving her the name Enapool or Anacool, which translate to donkey-legged. But that's not even the weirdest part. All folks say she's got 1 brass leg. Looks exactly like a mule's leg, but completely made of brass. And those that claim she's got the 2 say the other leg is either a regular mule's leg, brass and ass they say, or, and you're not going to believe me when I tell you, but this is what the people say, it's completely made of cow dung. Stepping in a spot of horse muck doesn't seem too bad now, does it, adventurer? So I bet you're wondering where this beauty dwells. The answer is as unsettling as the creature herself. It's everywhere, and nowhere. Unlike Black Anis, who nests in a particular cave, or the Gashadokuro, whose towering height makes them hard to miss, the Empusa is a hunter of the roads and alleys, a stalker of lonely places. Travellers whisper that she lingers at crossroads, where the fates of men twist and turn like the branching paths before them. If you're serious about finding the Empusa, then the fables claim that her ideal date night is either a moonless night, a dark, threatening forest, or an impossibly deep ravine where she would lie in wait for her prey. I've even heard from a few folk that claim the Empusa enjoys the lively buzz of your local pub, brothel, or possibly even a humble tavern. Unlike many mindless beasts that attack without thought, the Empusa is a surprisingly sneaky and ferocious predator. She does not hunt with brute force. She hunts with deception, patience, and an understanding of our mortal weaknesses. Her most fearsome ability lies in her mastery of illusion. Basically, she's a shapeshifter. And lucky for you, adventurer, when researching the Empusa, I was able to confirm a few shapes she enjoys shifting into. We've got a dog, bull, mule, ox, and of course, the form she enjoys taking the most is one of a beautiful woman. She uses this form to entice weary male travellers. Some say she has a particular fondness for philosophers, but that they always have to be young. She'll take these young victims back to her bed if you're lucky, as she's quite happy with pretty much any dark, secluded corner of the night. And make no mistake, her goal is never love nor companionship. She only ever wants two things: your blood and your flesh. When the moment is just right, her illusion shatters. The beautiful woman morphs back into her true form, said to have a face and body both hideously deformed by her lust for human blood. Let me tell you, adventurer, if you're lucky enough to confirm that, the Empusa is about to drink you dry. And if that weren't scary enough, adventurer, I've also heard accounts of a creature matching the Empusa's description that simply walked up to men sleeping on the street and feasting on their blood and flesh, provided the areas were quiet enough, of course. And that's not all. There were even some folks that say the Empusa occasionally likes to treat her prey well, sometimes for weeks. One account I found was for months, fattening them up till their blood ran rich with the fat and wine of a good life, just like livestock ready for the slaughter. So, I know what you're thinking. Dear tavern owner, this is an actual demigoddess. How on earth do I protect against that? Well, to start, if you're female, then you're safe. The Empusa has only ever been recorded as going after men, and young men at that. And much like our other creatures this week, it doesn't help to have a few party members join you. Unfortunately for you, I see you've come alone to my tavern. Well, if you're looking to hunt the Empusa, I'd recommend you get some friends and quick. It's a lot harder to have your blood and flesh devoured when you use the buddy system. And while we're talking plainly, don't fall asleep in the street. My next tip, it's gonna be a little odd, but stick with me, adventurer. This is what the legends say. If you're in a tavern, you're encountering an Empusa or someone you suspect of being Empusa, then simply begin to hurl insults at her. If you can get a friend or a stranger or even a crowd to join in, that'll improve your chances. It may surprise you, but the Empusa doesn't like mean words. They're said to recoil, hide away, and let out a terrible banshee shriek as they do. There is one major downside to this though. If it turns out this was in fact a real woman, then you've likely ruined your chances, and possibly even made a name for yourself as the cruel adventurer who insults innocent young women. If the idea of bullying doesn't sound appealing, you could always run. More than a few tales I've seen describe the Empusa's brass leg as being solid brass. It doesn't appear to bend, so as long as you can run faster than someone dragging a solid leg of brass, you'll be good. But let's say you've exhausted all other options, you've twisted your ankle so you can't run, and you're not really a fan of throwing insults at a possibly innocent woman. What do? Well, the only other method I can see of handling this temptress is to have another deity take her down. When researching the Empusa, I found a couple tales of some other Greek gods that were able to incapacitate her. So I recommend you drop to your knees and pray. It might just do the trick. And with that, we're finished with our last creature for the week. We've learned that it doesn't hurt to store a few cats in your satchel. Sometimes therapy is your best weapon. And if a woman's giving you the eye from across the bar, it might be that she likes your new shirt. or you look like you've got delicious skin. Now that bell means it's last call here at Creature Tavern, so grab yourself one more drink for the road, and until next time, tread carefully, adventurer. You never know when you might wander into the weird